Thank you, Sally Lamloum. For this report, Sally is our editor-in-chief. Time now to introduce you to our dear guest, Mr. Mohamed Nazmy, chairman of multinational tourism companies. Thank you very much, sir, for being here with us. And Mr. Barry Curran, and he's area manager of an international hotel company. Thank you very much, Mr. Curran, for being with us here. Mr. Curran, allow me to start with you. When people in Ireland, in the United States, and in the West, in the areas you deal with as a hotel company, tell you we're not going to Egypt these days because there is political tension, there is unrest and demonstrations in the streets sometimes. What do you tell them?
Well, firstly, Mohammed, unfortunately, it is something that we do hear all too often. And truthfully, we had expected to have passed this situation some months ago. But it continues up until today. We continue to hear from our feeder markets, which are primarily the markets you mentioned, North America, Europe, Far East, Japan, that people are still frightened to come. It's a question of security. It's a question that they're coming on vacation. They want to feel safe. They want to feel relaxed. And they don't get that perception at the moment from the news that's coming out of Egypt.
Well, what is that worries them the most? I mean, recently also in the past weeks and past few months, we've had a series of kidnappings that were quickly solved. Yes, they were quickly solved in a matter of hours, but still, they did occur against...
yes, they did.
The latest was against the two Brazilian women that were freed.
Yes.
So it's been several of them have occurred. All of them have ended peacefully and very quickly, but is this also one of the things that...
Without question. I mean, to reply to your first point, what is it? It's really fear for their personal safety. I'm not saying that it is a catastrophic fear, but it is a fear that's stopping them coming. And in our industry, and particularly in the tourism and leisure side of our industry, and don't forget we have the corporate side, which is slightly different, but in the tourism and leisure side, you don't need a high degree of fear to encourage an individual to say, well, guess what, I won't come to Egypt this year. I'll put it off to the following year or the year after. This year we'll go somewhere else. It's a very easy decision for them to make. So you don't need a high level of fear in order to dissuade them from coming.
Right.
And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The weekend before last, the Sunday Times newspaper, which is one of the largest circulating newspapers in the United Kingdom, and indeed also circulates in Ireland where I'm from, in the magazine section had a full-page article, and the headline of the article was, "Should you come to Egypt now?" ? And the entire body of the article catalogued every single incident that happened in Egypt to a foreigner or to a tourist since the uprising. Every single one.
Right.
And then actually went back further to the bad old days of Luxor.
So it's not making it any easier for Egypt, the fact that things are ending peacefully, because they are still happening.
It's a question of, it's like dropping water, drop after drop after drop. And what we need, of course, is a sustained period of stability and non-events.
Right.
For want of a better way of putting it.
Indeed. Mr. Nazmy, we know, of course, that you, as a pioneer in this field, in the private sector, are doing all you can. You and your colleagues are doing all you can to help get tourism back to normal rates in Egypt. What's your assessment of the government's efforts? I mean, we've had the Minister Abdul Noor going to the Berlin bourse, visiting Russia, going to France, meeting with the representatives of top companies there, trying to persuade these key markets to go back to Egypt. Is this enough, or I mean, what is it you need? You want to see from the government?
Not really enough, because, well, the Minister of Tourism, he really, I must say, is doing the maximum of his best. I mean, he's doing the best he could. But again, you know, like Mr. Khan said, the fears, you know, you cannot take away unless you see it happening in the country. I mean, the stability, the political stability and security stability, that's really a must. Now, the government and the private sector, who are us, we did something new, which hopefully will boost the tourism somehow, and it's the long night cruises, you know, from Aswan to Cairo. We have advertised that, and the minister have announced that in Berlin ITB, and we already have reservation. You know, some people are coming on this cruise. But honestly, again, as I always say, Mohammed, without the political stability and security stability, we cannot have tourism, because many people have the fear. You cannot imagine the amount of efforts and the money that you spend on advertising to get people here. But I mean, they are coming. They come. I mean, there is no doubt. But not enough to support the 85 million. Not enough to support all these people, you know, to support the business. You know.
So let me ask you this. I mean, a year after the revolution, now almost 13 or 14 months after the revolution, did you think that we would be, we should have been at a better stage in the recovery?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the best time, Mohammed, was the first 2 weeks of the revolution. That's when the whole entire world was watching us, and they all clapped their hands for us, and they all want to come to Egypt. But what happened after the first 2 weeks is, I must say, it's a disaster. I mean, our act as people, they have no idea that we are hurting ourselves by so many things, you know, that
some of the protests and the sit-ins are also affecting the tourism industry, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's nice to object. It's nice to say whatever you want. I mean, it's democracy, what we're looking for. But the way we do it, you know, I mean, it's not the right way to achieve democracy. In the same time, it's given the wrong indication about Egyptian people who are, I consider, the wealth of Egypt. But it gives the wrong impression about them, you know, even though they are nice people, you know.
Let us get Mr. Curran here and ask for his advice. What would you advise if you were in the decision-making process in the government here trying to support tourism?
Well, first of all, let me just reiterate what Mohammed said. It's impossible for any government or any individual in that government to make any significant improvement in the current situation unless we have perceived stability in the country overseas. And I use the word perceived.
Because it could happen, but it could take time until it is perceived.
We actually have an enormous degree of stability now. If you look at what's gone on in the country in the last 6 months, with the exception of the unfortunate incidents with the Bedouins kidnapping 3 different groups of people, and very briefly, and then released safely, thankfully, we've had a relatively peaceful situation. Yes, we've had an increase in crime, but that exists in virtually every country in the world. Yes, we've had some demonstrations and some strikes. That exists in every country in the world. Yet, that said, we still have a perception within our main feeder markets that a significant number of people don't feel it's safe to come here. So we've got to get over this problem. We need some good PR. We need to get ahead of the curve, get ahead of the problem, and start getting the story out there within the press and within the other media sources that it actually is safe to come to Egypt.
Speaking of the media, I mean, the media has been blamed, whether the Western media or even media here in Egypt, and especially the private run media, has been blamed for exaggerating events and portraying them in a way that scares people away. In your assessment, is that the case, or do you think media is simply, you know, just transmitting the facts?
Well, with all my respect to your profession and to your industry, I had a very memorable quote from a very well-renowned US anchor person a number of years ago, who told me that in his business, good news was no news and bad news is good news. And what the media are looking for is bad news, because that's what's exciting, it's sensational, it's what sells advertising, gets you numbers, whether it's readership or viewership. And, you know, unless we are proactive and ahead of the curve and getting really good news out there and pushing it, they will automatically graduate towards the small snippets of bad news, put them together and make a story and put it out. And that's what's been happening. Frankly speaking, over the last 6 to 8 months, that's what's been happening.
Right.